Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Dr. Heldman here, Tech Talk Education. In this video, this is going to be part 2 of a Try Hack Me room that I've been taking you through. It's a very, very good room. I really like Try Hack Me as a company. I just read an article where they're going to be a Black Hat this year. That should be a lot of fun. And let's get started. This is where we really get into the nutsy, boltsy stuff. The first video was more about the idea behind sessions, cookies, tokens, things like that. Now we're going to get in and we're going to take a look at them. So let's get started. Should be pretty interesting. Now, if you've used Try Hack Me before, you're probably aware that there is a thing called the attack box. What happens when you start the attack box is on the left-hand side you have the room like we're looking at here on the screen, and on the right-hand side you have a container. It's a virtualized Linux environment that allows you to go about the business of going through the lessons. The attack box is fine. I prefer using OpenVPN on my KALI Linux running inside an Oracle VirtualBox distro, and so I'm going to do that. Now OpenVPN it's not hard to set up and it's not hard to use, but you really should consider going through this class if you're looking at doing that. So it's at tryhackme.com/room/OpenVPN. Go through the class. That will show you how to set up OpenVPN inside KALI Linux so that you can connect directly to your Try Hack Me room. Now I've switched back to the room that we're working in. This is called Session Management. It's a premium room. I pay the annual fee for a Try Hack Me account. Really enjoy working with these lessons. They're very thorough and very informative. And you can see here that you got Start Attack Box. That would be if you wanted to work side by side with this together in a browser. The reason you might like that is because maybe you have a computer that doesn't have quite the horsepower needed to run like Oracle VirtualBox, KALI Linux, and then also OpenVPN to be able to get into this room and work with it. It might be kind of slow, in which case the attack box would be a good thing. What I want to do though is I want to use OpenVPN. So I will come down here to Task 6. Previous video, part 1 of these, we went through tasks 1 through 5. That's all more academic information. Now we're actually doing the hands-on nitty-gritty stuff, and I'm going to go ahead and start the machine. Starting the machine will take a minute to go, so I'm just going to do this and shift back to KALI Linux for a minute. Okay, here's KALI Linux, and I want to show you something. If I type in IP space A, you can see that I've got a bunch of tunnels here. So this is a ton, stands for tunnel. This is a virtualized connection back to Try Hack Me, and what happens is when you use OpenVPN, it automatically sets up these tunnels. Well, my problem is that I have 4 of them and I need to get rid of them. So this loopback is fine, Ethernet 0 is fine. It would be great if I had just 1 tunnel, but I have 4 of them open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all of them. Let me clear the screen here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say sudo kill OpenVPN. And the reason that this happens is this tunnel is not closed if you just kill OpenVPN. Like I get in trouble, I come in and I just do a Control-C to kill OpenVPN, or even worse, I just close the terminal window. It keeps that ton open, and so I'm going to just kill all those. So I hit enter, type in my password to kill that. Failed to parse argument OpenVPN. Oh, I said sudo kill. I need pkill, process kill. My bad. Excuse me, all the heck for that. Boom. Very good. So those have all been killed. If I do an IPA, now I see that all of the tunnels have been taken away, and I only have the 2 adapters, loopback and Ethernet, which is great. If you had Wi-Fi, you might have a WLAN adapter in there as well. Now another way to kill these ton links is this. So the command would be sudo space, if I could spell sudo I'd be in good shape, IP space link delete, and then you do a ton. Let's say we wanted to delete ton 0 or ton 1 or ton 2. You can get rid of them that way as well. So that is a way to do that. Now that we've done all that, what we want to do is we want to restart the networking stack. So we do a sudo systemctl restart network manager, and network manager is proper case, so you'll have to be aware of that. So now it's all done, we're good to go there. Okay, back to the Try Hack Me screen. Here's my Try Hack Me section, and you can see that it has started my machine. Now you cannot run the attack box and the OpenVPN side by side. That's not going to work. You're going to get in trouble. And if you have multiple tunnel adapters, you might get into trouble as well. It might not work very well for you. So of a day, if I were using KALI Linux inside Oracle VirtualBox and I wanted to connect to a Try Hack Me machine, I would go in there and make sure that all of the tunnels have been cleared up so that I don't have an issue there. Notice that it gives me this IP address. I'm going to copy that. Also notice that there's a room here, Try Hack Me TAC Varsity TAC Dockerized _ version 1.2, and this tells me, it tells me that this is a Dockerized container that we're going against. Also, this name is important, so we might want to use this inside KALI Linux to put it in the hosts file to tell KALI that we now have this host sitting out here. Let me show you how that works. Right then, so here's KALI. So the first thing I want to do is a sudo nano. I'm going to edit etc hosts here, and you can see that I was playing around with this before. Here's the title of the room right here, THM TAC Varsity TAC Dockerized version 1.2. Now what I want to do is I want to get rid of this IP address because I've got a new IP address. I was out playing around with it, and so I had to mess around with these addresses. Now I've got 44230. That's the thing that I'm looking at. This is a Class A reserved IP address, so that makes sense to me. Control O and enter, and Control X to save. Okay. Next thing that we do is we start OpenVPN. So the way that you do that is sudo OpenVPN, and you point it to the folder, the location, desktop, where your OpenVPN file is at. When you go through the class in Oracle Try Hack Me, it's going to require that you create one of these OVPN files, download it, and then what you'll do is you will copy it over to your KALI Linux machine so that you have it here, and I just keep it on the desktop. So I'm going to path this and hit enter. This is a great thing because what this means is, see here it says it opened ton 0, super good, and yeah, I don't have any errors. What I'm doing is I'm looking for errors here to make sure that I don't have anything at all that's happening. And there's a lot of good stuff going on here, a lot of stuff you should read through and understand how it's working, but for the sake of time, let's just press on for now. I'm going to minimize that so it's running up here, right there. I'm going to minimize it because I've got to keep it running. The virtual machine needs to be running OpenVPN while you're working with Try Hack Me. Now I'll type in IPA again, and I notice that I picked up a ton 0. That's super. I like that a lot. And I don't know if you need to freak out about the idea of these numbers here, like adapter number 1 is my loopback, and adapter number 2 is my Ethernet adapter, and adapter number 10 is my tunnel adapter. That tells me that it's keeping a little database somewhere of ton adapters that it's used before. I don't know if I'm even going to worry about it. There's probably a way to get rid of that and get it to renumber, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. What I am going to worry about is I want to see if I can ping that host address that I was given by Try Hack Me. Let's see if that works. That is a great sign. That's very good. Control C. Okay, we're all set up. We're all hooked into Try Hack Me now to use OpenVPN. I will minimize this, and then I'm going to run back to the Try Hack Me session and show you the next thing that we need to do. So now that I've got that, I'm coming down in here and I'm looking, and they want us to go out to this URL. Now normally this will say HTTP machine or machine IP, but once we connect up to OpenVPN and it gives us this IP address, it'll replace that string machine IP with this actual IP address. So I'm going to right click and copy that link address. I'm going to go back to KALI. All right, now what we do is we pull up Firefox. We're going to do everything from Firefox from here on out. So I'll bring this out in the center of the screen, right click and say paste and go. Now with any luck, we're going to get it attached to this machine. You can see it's getting the data from the machine, so that's all good. By the way, I should let you know that I had OneDrive running, and boy, that'll really sap the energy out of your system. So what I would do is, if you have OneDrive, I would consider pausing that while you're doing this kind of work until after you're done. Okay, so this is what it looks like in the session. We're going to go ahead and sign up for a new user account. I'm going to register as a student. We're going to hack into it as a lecturer. I'm going to register as a student. So I'm going to say that my name is Bill Heldman, and my username is going to be W Heldman, and I'm just going to use a FACO password that's not very strong. I'll say not now. Boom, user successfully created. Okay, now I'm going to log in as my user. So I can use W Heldman, and I'm going to use my bum password. It's not a very good password. And this is what you're looking at. So what you want to do is take a look at the dashboard. It's not a very interesting dashboard, but you've got some modules like databases, mathematics. These are all by a guy named Lecturer, and it tells you how many students are enrolled. So you've got one student enrolled in distributed databases, two students enrolled in mathematics, and one enrolled in a new module. So that's where we're at so far, and we're just taking stock of what we've got here. Let's go back to the Try Hack Me window and see what we need to do next. Okay, now you're going to use the browser's inspector window. I don't know if you have used that before, but if you hit the F12 key, it'll bring up the inspector. This is called the inspector. Every browser does this. It might be a different keystroke to get into the inspector. I'm using Brave. They all basically work the same way. Firefox works the same way. However, I will let you know that the inspector looks different based upon the browser that you're using. So it even looks differently if you're using it with Firefox inside KALI versus if you were using the attack box. The inspector looks a little different. You're going to want to pay attention to this here. They're showing you that you have been dropped a cookie. And so where are they at? Well, the inspector's gotten really, really big. I'm going to kill it here. And you can see that you've got inspector, console, debugger, network, style editor, performance, and so forth. And they're currently on storage. So let's go back to the KALI box and see if that's the case. I'm going to go ahead and I can right click and say inspect, or the letter Q brings up the inspector, or F12 work. This is what the inspector looks like. Now I have it in a separate window here, and I want to show you how you get to that window. So if you click the ellipsis button here, you can dock it to the right, to the bottom, to the left. I have it in a separate window because I needed a little bit more screen real estate. I was looking at these things. And here's your tabs: inspector, console, debugger, and so forth. We're going to go to storage, and we're going to see that a cookie has dropped here, and it's looking at the root of the site here. So this little key here, that slash key, means that we are in the root of the site. We can see everything that's going on right now. We're logged into the root of the site, and here is my key value, and here's my IP address. All right, let's go back and see what we need to do next. Now it says here, I'm going to scroll this up a little bit. We first notice that we're not presented with any cookies or tokens when we first visit the page. This tells us that unauthentication sessions are most likely not being tracked. All right, now what does that tell you as a SOC analyst? That tells you, well, we probably need to tighten that up because people are able to get in, ascertain that, and then maybe do some damage on the site. If we click the sign up button, we can see that there are two, just like we did here. This is really cute, isn't it? They named their person an attacker. And so now what they want us to do is they want us to go into this area called headers. Let's go see where that's at. So we're going to monitor the network traffic. Now, this is going to get away from you. If you're in KALI, you're going to be looking for these words here, and you're specifically looking for headers, and you're not paying attention to the fact that it tells you that we need to go look at the network traffic. So let's go back to our KALI VM and see what that looks like. All right, here's KALI. So what we do is we go to network. Where is it? There it is right there. we're going to go ahead and reload the page to see network activity here. Now this is very interesting because it's telling you what it's doing with the site. There's a lot of pretty cool stuff here, but the thing that you're pretty much looking for is right at the very, very front, the very top. You see that you've got this root header right here. And what that then will do is bring up the record of your activity on the network getting into the TryHackMe computer or the virtualized environment. And here now is where our headers are at. Now take a look here, because what it's wanting you to do is you notice that you've got a session cookie down here. This is in the request header. This is in the response header. So what this is saying is that the server responded to me and now I'm requesting something back. Let's see now where we need to go inside the THM class. This looks a little bit like what we've got. Mine's dark anyway in the KALI session. This is light for the sake of printing it. This is what you're looking for. What you probably did not notice was network traffic. Then you have to reload the session in KALI anyway, Firefox KALI, and then you can see the headers. So we did all that, and they're telling you that you have a response header here. We don't have that. Let's go see what we have to do. So it says cookies are being used for session management. The HTTP only flag is set, which means we should not be able to leverage JavaScript to read the cookie value. That's a really, really important thing that's happening there. And they say that the cookie expiration time seems weird, since both the creation and the expiry for the cookie are exactly the same. Let's go see if this is the case. We're just going to go examine the data here. So here I am back in TryHackMe. Here's the room itself here, the dashboard, and here's my inspection window. I'm looking down through here and I'm looking to see what I can see. So, and the reason that I have to do that is because I'm currently on my computer. Now what I need to do is go down and find the TryHackMe computer. So let's go see if we can find that. We are specifically looking for a window called modules. There it is right there. So you see now this here is the actual TryHackMe virtualized, the containerized environment. There is an area called modules in there. You can see that I'm pointed to 10.10.44.230 port 5000, and I look down in here now. I see the response headers that they were talking about right there, and then I see my cookie session right here. And what they're wanting you to do is to notice that we have some other things going on, like HTTP only right here is a blank. That's the thing that's keeping us from being able to use JavaScript to ascertain these cookies and steal the session. And then there is a date and time thing here that we could look at as well. All right, so we've got that. The thing that I was trying to illustrate to you is that if you go to the top of the screen and you just click this, you're on your local computer, you're not getting the data that you need. You need to go down and find the modules window, which is down here, 235,000, where's modules right there. And now we're good to go. That's where we need to be in order to understand what the heck it is TryHackMe is trying to teach us. Okay, so we look down here and we say now with this authentication we notice we have more access to functionality, which we've already looked at. They say using menu navigation and reviewing the network traffic, we see that session tracking is forced through the cookie that is being transmitted with each request. Notice here, and you might not have noticed this where you're not looking, they show you that you're getting at the room address 5000/modules. So you're in the modules folder, which is what is displaying this stuff here to you. And that would be something very easy to overlook. They don't do any arrows or anything to try and steer you to where you need to go. And so what you're doing is you're paying attention to that now. Okay, now it says note that your headers might differ slightly depending upon which browser you to use. An interesting thing to note is that even though the cookie expiry time has been reached, the same set cookie header is used to refresh the cookie to the same exact value. This might point to a persistent cookie. Let's see what happens when we remove this cookie. So now they're telling you to go to storage, and this is the thing that you really need to pay attention to, because we're going to move from network to storage, network storage, that sort of thing, back and forth. And so we're going to remove the cookie, and then we're going to make the module request again. Okay, now to remove that cookie, I go to storage, go to cookies, find the cookie, and just delete it. So I'll right click and say delete all. Boom, gone, nothing there. We don't have anything more, and then I will refresh this screen. Okay, so now we've got a problem here, don't we? I'm logged on as me, but I don't have any of the modules here. So if I click modules, I'm logged on as here as dashboard. But if I click the modules header, I want you to notice something here, that I don't see the number of enrolled students. So I've deleted that cookie, and now what that's telling me is that some of the data is not available to me. Let's go back and see what TryHackMe has to say about this. So as we scroll down, they say, well, this request still seems to succeed. However, if you take a closer look, you can see that there's nobody enrolled here. Now this is very interesting to me. So it says this tells us that we might need to do further investigation to determine exactly what we are allowed to access from a completely unauthenticated perspective. Meaning, I'm a hacker, I want to get into this website, I want to do something with it. What can I do that is not me at all? So we're going to log out, and we're going to see that the session is removed client side. However, it says if we test the session, it is also terminated server side. You can re-authenticate to the application and replace your new cookie with your old cookie value, but it does seem like the session termination is working to some capacity, as you get a 500 internal server error when you refresh the page. So let's go see what that looks like. So I do get that 500 error, but what if I log out here? I'm just going to go ahead and log out. Great, and I'll re-log in as me. Now what that means is I'm going to snag a new cookie. I'm not going to save that. That looks good. Here's my number of students. Here's my modules. That all looks very good. And now what TryHackMe is asking you to do is not just look at the cookie. So here's my cookie here. Boom, that refilled and everything looks good. I'm at the root here. That all looks good. But now what they want you to do is go to local storage. Let me twizzle this up. Local storage. Oh, I've got this thing here coming from 44.230. That's my TryHackMe room ID. And I can see that I've got a user value here. And my user is me. I don't have a surname. This is my username. So I've gotten some really good stuff here. Well, what happens now? Let's go back and look and see what the TryHackMe materials are telling us. Okay, so this is where we're at now. We're in local storage. We're looking at the key value right here. And it's saying, well, let's play around with this. So we want to change from student to lecturer. Where would we do that? Let's run back to KALI and see. So it's actually really straightforward. It's actually kind of frightening, because I'll just click right here in this field here. So I'm in local storage. This is the server 44.230. I'm listening on port 5000. It's giving me this session information. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say that I am a lecturer. And of course I need to spell that right. Now I'm a lecturer. Okay, well what did that do for me? Now that I'm lecturer, I will also go ahead and refresh the page. Same diff, everything's good here. Notice now that your screen updates and you have the ability to look at various things that you could not see when you were a regular user. Let's go back to TryHackMe and see what they say about this. Alright, so they show you the same thing, and they say, well now, while we have access to more tabs, it seems like we don't have access to more information, since we can see any students or test attempts. I don't know if he's saying since we can't see any students or test attempts. There are a couple of places where there wasn't a word that was completed, so I'm not sure what he's saying here. This is where you'd have to double stare at the page to try and understand what the teacher is trying to tell you. Let's take this further by updating our role in the user value from a 2 to a 3. Sadly, this gives us the same results. Let's go see what that looks like. Now that's still going to happen down in local storage. You're pointing to 44.230. In my case, your IP address is going to be different. I'm going to go down here to the user key. My role is a 2 rather than, and I'm going to just change this to a 3. It's a little tiny, so I've got to click in there and change that to a 3. And then I'll come out of here and I will refresh the page and see if it made any difference. Not a whole lot of difference there. Not a whole lot of difference going on so far. Let's go back to TryHackMe and see what they say. Now they give you a really good table here. It says this gives us the same results, nothing changing the user value doesn't help. But if you're thinking about it, this might be something a hacker might try to do, right? So if you change certain values and you just increment them slightly or decrement them slightly, you might get different results. That was the point of what we were trying to do there. However, it says that there are more values to play with here, such as our ID and our username. We will have to come back to this. However, the new information tells us that the sessions might not be managed not purely through a cookie, but through token information. So that's very interesting. So they give you the life cycle phase here. I will let you read this table, but this would be something that a SOC analyst would do. You've got, like a spiral notebook, or you've got Word or some notepad, something up on your computer, and you're writing down all of these things. They're trying to give you a good example of the kind of work that a SOC analyst would go through in figuring out what the vulnerabilities are for a website like this. It says, given all this information, we should already report the following vulnerabilities. There are excessive session lifetimes. I agree with that. We're not controlling the lifetime. We would also need to investigate the following: access controls on all API endpoints and web application logs for accountability of actions. So we'd have to dig a little bit deeper into the website itself, whatever's serving up these pages, just find out what's going on here. All right, now they've got some questions for us. They want to know what the username of the student with the name X. Let's go back and see if we can find that. So here I am back in KALI, and we need to find student with username X. That must be under students. And there we go, there's username X. So you'd just take and copy that into the answer. You'd be good to go there. Let's go back to TryHackMe and see what else it wants to know. They also want to know how many lecturers are registered on the application. Excluding the unauthenticated user, how many roles does the application have? And then how many test attempts in order have been performed on the app? Let's see if we can go find this information. How many lecturers are registered on the application? So it looks to me, I went back to dashboard, I went from students to dashboard. It looks to me like there is just one lecturer, lecturer 1, and there are 3 classes that are going on here, and there are no tests that have happened so far. And then they want to know about an application that was being tested. They also want to know what the highest score is that student 1 achieved on a test, and what is the sequence of correct answers for the database types test. Let's go look at those things. So we're looking for the highest scores student 1 has achieved, and then the sequence of correct answers for database. All right, so if I come in here and I go to the dashboard and I go inside as lecturer, so now I want to look as an action as a lecturer, click the eyeball here, and I can see that I've got this database types, distributed databases. I scroll down, also, if I click over here under database types, this ID2, distributed databases, I can get the answer for the question on the correct order of answers there. So that's how that would work if you're trying to get those answered. Then I'm ready for my conclusion. All right, now here's the thing. So it says to defend against these attacks, it is important to implement a secure session management lifecycle. While several items were touched on in this room, take a look at the recap. So the recap is this: the session's values must be stored securely, regardless of being a cookie or a token. The session values themselves must be either sufficiently random or not guessable, or use a signing mechanism to ensure that they cannot be tampered with. That would be a certificate or something like that. Sessions should be used to track user actions and perform authorization checks to ensure the user can perform the requested action. Sessions should expire after a set amount of time to prevent them from being used for persistent access. And if the logout button is pressed, the session should be removed client side and invalidated server side. Otherwise, the user would be unable to destroy their session if it was compromised. So that's the sum total of the class. Now here's the thing. This was a very, very interesting class. It's very meaty, M-E-A-T-Y, meaty, in terms of the academics. There's a lot to know here, and this isn't the end of it. What this should be denoting to you is that you probably need quite a bit more training on web vulnerability analysis. There are entire courses in that you can take, and that is something that's going to be very, very valuable for you. I hope you enjoyed this movie. Thanks for watching this movie. I really appreciate you guys. I got a notice from YouTube the other day that said, "Congratulations, your site's growing." I'm very happy about that. Thank you. I hope this was helpful to you. Definitely somehow get an annual license for TryHackMe, because this is great training. There's not necessarily any need to buy a bunch of expensive books or go through a class here or there. I do recommend those things, but TryHackMe is really doing the deal here. The only thing you've got to do, and this is where I got wadded up when I was going through this, you got to really read this stuff and pay attention to the very, very fine detail that the instructor is showing you here. So please like my channel, subscribe to my channel. I don't know if the notification button is there anymore, but if it is, hit that button. And you're welcome to drop comments. I sure do appreciate the comments. And I will talk to you in the next video. Have a great and wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.